to Paddlecast with Betsy
and Billy. On Paddlecast, we talk to and about paddlers who are pushing the limits, paddlers who are pushing their own limits and pushing the limits of paddle sports.
We are in our first sort of short news episode today, so a slightly new format. And we talked a little bit about this in our last episode, but our goal today is to catch up on a lot of the news that we've missed lately. And we're going to try to keep it a bit short and sweet and then give you more of these a bit more frequently on Wednesdays. Let's start with the Dordogne. Billy, what happened in France?
The Dordogne Integrale, it was in France this weekend, 9th of May. Central France, it's a 130-kilometer race. The winners were around 7.5 to 8 hours. It is on a river with drops, with long, bouncy wave trains, relentless rapids of varying complexity. My spy on the course was Tom Dawson, and he described the river as very hard to read. Now, Tom is a good paddler. He is good at reading moving water. So if he's describing it as that, then it's must have been pretty good water. The conditions this year, unlike last year, where it was absolutely massive, the locals described as near perfect. It was a very interesting race this year. And actually, having looked at it, I'm definitely adding it to my calendar next year.
This one has been on my list for a while as well. I always hear really good things from people who go and do it.
This year's race, it was a close one. The lead was swapping all the time. I was watching on the tracker. Lead swapped a few times between Sylvain Eudes and Max Trouvé, and ended in a very close 1 second gap. Sylvain Eudes winning in 8:23 and 8 seconds with Max 1 second back. So real nail biter. They weren't the overall winners. There was a K2. The Guyanais and Nylon K2 won in 7:46. The ladies' winner is Capucine Martin. She was 30 minutes ahead of Lucille Moreau.
That is wild that the top two men's boats were so close after more than 8 hours to finish 1 second apart.
It's tight, isn't it? I mean, that's a long way to go.
The Dordogne had a ton of entries from stand-up paddleboarders as well. The Dordogne has been around for a long time. And so, canoes and kayaks have been doing it for a while. And over the last few years, it's definitely become a bigger race in the stand-up paddleboarding community. It is mostly French paddlers who are there in SUP. I think mostly French in canoe and kayak as well. And the winners there in the men's, it was Morgan Bernard, who won in just over 10 hours. And in the women's category, it was Marie Pourreyron Remoiville, also French. And she won in, I think, a little over 12 hours.
Did you say there was 47 SUP entries?
Yeah, 47 SUP entries, which is a lot considering that's out of 128 entries, I believe, overall. That might be 128 who finished the race, but it's still a huge portion. I said canoes and kayaks, but Billy, you were saying that it was in the kayaks, it was a mix of sort of classic marathon kayaks with the open cockpit, but also surfskis.
Yeah, so friend of the channel, my world record Thames K2 partner, Tom Dawson, he was feeding me the information. He said that actually, when he goes back next year, he's going to have to be in a ski with an overstern rudder on the back. He said that whilst he was very good in the water and he was able to put a lot of power down in his descent boat, he found that actually a lot of the time the boat was just bouncing all over the show, and the extra length of a surf ski just meant that in the wave trains, the boat wasn't bouncing around. And I was looking at one on a video on Instagram. I believe it was Lucille Moreau going over one of the weirs in a ski, and the boat was just so much more stable fore and aft. It just took the wave trains like a dream, and Tom just said he was going down a wave, going up a wave, going down a wave and up a wave. So surf skis are the way to go, as opposed to these sort of descent racing K1s, apparently.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought.
No, I always sort of sniggered when I was at the Ardèche would have been 2 years ago, I sort of sniggered when I saw surf skis there. And I was like, well, what are these idiots doing taking a surf ski down this water? But apparently, it's the way to go. So, and it looks like I'll be joining them next year.
I'll be really curious to hear about that more.
I would definitely like to shout out Tom again because he's had a brilliant weekend of racing. Yeah, he's setting himself a challenge every month now.
Yeah, I've enjoyed following along too. It's every month he's doing some kind of ultra distance type challenges, and those have been down rivers in the UK, in a marathon boat, or in this case racing Dordogne. He paddled around Hailing Island in an ocean ski a couple of months ago. It's a really cool idea, and I think for anyone who wants to push themselves into more challenging paddling, it's a neat way to combine like the fun adventure aspect of it with what will of course ultimately be driving an improvement in his skills as well.
He recently set the record for lock to lock on the longest lockless section of canal in the UK, which runs along the M6. It's up near Preston in the north of England. I mean, it was a long old slog, but he did it unsupported, loaded the boat up with water and food. And was it around the 6 hour mark? Something like that. It's a long old slog.
Well, I think we have the GBK2 assessment race up next, which we previewed in a prior episode. Billy, I know you were going through that data and said, these are people we should be watching on the international scene later this year.
Yeah, so this was about 2 weeks ago, 26th of April. GB K2 assessment race. It was in Reading. It was good racing, tight racing, but the standout performances again were Alex Morgan and Will Short, and they are absolutely flying in a K2. They won their race at Canter. I mentioned the handicap system that they use for selection in the UK on one of the previous episodes, and they publish it online, and it gives us a really easy hint of who to look out for at the European Championships. Alex Morgan and Will Short were obviously very high on the list. They are going to be serious medal contenders. But we've also got Joe Enoch in the under 23 level and Will Short again in the K1. They could do some serious damage in their age groups. Whilst James Russell didn't have the best of handicap scores, he won the men's race. And I'm still not convinced he's been pushed domestically. He won the Waterlands, I'm not going to say fairly easily, but I don't think he was pushed. I suspect James has a medal hope at the Europeans when it comes to it.
I'm looking forward to seeing how they go. And I think we had one more in the canoeing side of things too, who we want to be looking out for.
Yeah, so Beth Gill has come off the back of a long-term injury. She actually had surgery on her shoulder. She could do some serious damage. She wasn't flying at the assessment race, but it might have been because she didn't need to. She won gold in the short course and bronze in the long course at the C1 World Championships back in 2022. She might be back to her best, and it'll be exciting to see what she can do on the world stage.
She has also been documenting her injury recovery process on Instagram, which has been neat to follow because I think, hearing from some of these really high level athletes about how difficult it is to deal with an injury like that and how you recover and what that looks like. I've enjoyed following her journey, and I'm looking forward to seeing how she comes back better than before, hopefully in the coming months and years.
So, SUP Internationals, tell me about those.
It has been completely nonstop in the stand-up paddleboarding world for the last few weeks. So we've previewed a few of these and then got a little bit behind, which is why we're trying the new format. But the biggest ones we have to talk about. So we had the Battle for Hercules, which was the 26th to 27th of April in Spain. That is on the Mediterranean near Malaga. Then we had a few days later, the 1st and 2nd of May, the first ICF SUP World Cup of the year in Sitia, Greece. So that was in Crete on the eastern side of the island, also a Mediterranean race. And immediately after that, the 3rd to the 4th of May, was the Agios Nikolaos, also in Crete, pretty close to Sitia. And the next couple of days afterwards, it was actually the 10th anniversary of the Agios Nikolaos this year. And then at the same time as those 2 races in Crete were happening, we had the Triple S Festival in Melilla. That was from the 2nd to 4th of May. That was the second stop on the newly launched European SUP League. A few days after that, or about a week after that, because at least these paddlers got a few days of rest, was the Sancti Petri, which is one of the Eurotour stops. The Sancti Petri SUP Festival, 10th to 11th of May in Spain. That is on the south coast of Spain on the Atlantic near Portugal. So a huge amount of racing on the sea, a lot of that on the Mediterranean between Spain and Greece. These paddlers are just kind of flying back and forth between these races. And there's still more races coming up. So it is just completely nonstop. Mike Jucker from Stand Up Magazine has called this the biggest 6 weeks that the SUP sport has ever seen. It gives the paddlers a lot of choice about, where they want to be. And a lot of these have pretty good prize money as well. So, if you can keep up with the schedule, I think the racers will be pretty happy with this.
There's some people been building up some air miles there, haven't they?
Back and forth across the Mediterranean.
Yeah, if I was there, I'd definitely be trying to work out who was going to which race to try and pump up my numbers up higher up the podium. Like who's going here and who's going there. I'm going to go to the easy race.
Yeah, I'm curious about some of the strategies that they're taking. I'm sure some folks are taking that approach. The ones I've listed off, though, you're not going to avoid any. None of these races are going to be easy wins for anyone, I think, because there's just enough top talent to go around. But yeah, it's, how much are they valuing the prize money, the logistics, other things that they have going on. We're definitely seeing some names racing more than others. So 2 of the top women in the world, Alba Frey and Espe Barreras, are based in Spain, and they have not been at all of these races. So I'd say they've been doing a little bit less racing than some other names who've been out there.
Did I see that Albert is now leading the European SUP League?
Yeah. She's just a fantastic paddler, and it's going to be another good year for her. I think when she does race, she has been doing really well. I think some of the other ones to watch, Marie Carmen Rivera, who is from Puerto Rico, is having another great year. She had a good year last year. She's come in with some exceptionally strong results at the beginning of this year over the last few races. She matched up against Katniss Paris from the US at SUP Sitia, one of the Crete races, that first ICF World Cup. And they were only separated by half a second in that sprint race, which is pretty tight. So Katniss is the 2024 world champion in SUP sprint. And, I think she's kind of a newer name on the SUP scene last year. She's certainly shown in the last few races this year that she's not going anywhere. Sprint is her favorite discipline. But having Marie Carmen just that half second behind her, I think that's a good rivalry in the sprints to continue to watch out for. Yeah, so I said, Katniss, of course, is really strong in those sprints. But when she went up against Alba Frey at the Agios Nikolaos, it was Alba Frey who won that sprint race. Again, when Alba and Espe come out to race, they perform really well, even though they haven't been at all of the races this year. And it was Marie Carmen, right? Amazing season. So she won Sancti Petri on the Eurotour for the second year in a row, and also won the technical and long distance races at Agios Nikolaos in Crete, and finished first in the technical and second in the sprints at Sitia. So, Marie Carmen also, just to show that kind of performance across all of the different sprint, technical, and distance disciplines. Really impressive. She's absolutely one to watch out for. And yeah, Alba and Espe finished first and second in long distance at the Battle for Hercules ahead of Duna Gordillo and Chilad Cotas. But then in the technical race there at the Battle for Hercules, it was Duna who bested both of them. And then Chilad finished in third place behind Espe and ahead of Alba. And really, it's tight as anything between, we could maybe say like the top 6 women.
It's so close. It's amazing racing.
It really is. And I mean, that's one of the fun things to watch. They have traded, these podium spots so frequently, different events, different, categories between the technical, the sprint, and the long distance. It's really hard to say. I don't think that you could say that there's any one or two who are consistently coming out on top at this stage in the season. I think it's really still a matter of trading places. World titles later this year are going to be up for grabs, I think, again, for like any of these women. I'm going to list my top 6 there. I'd say definitely Marie Carmen Rivera, Katniss Paris in the sprints for sure, Alba Frey, of course, Espe Barreras, Duna Gordillo, and Chilad Cotas from Hungary. They are all really up there. Good representation for the Spaniards as usual. So that's Alba, Espe, and Duna. And we'll see if anyone can manage to start coming out on top a little bit more consistently. And it's, they've still got other competition in the mix there too, names who haven't been at some of these European races who will crop up, I'm sure, at some races later in the season. But it's just phenomenal to watch. And I love seeing them kind of trade these top spots.
Yeah, in doing research for this episode, I was checking out these races and having a little look on social media, and there's so much skill there. It's amazing. Really impressive.
It really is. I've already said before that the technical racing is my favorite to watch, but there's something so, and in the long distance too, they do these buoy turns. And unlike in canoe or kayak where you're sitting down, when you're standing on the SUP board, you have this flexibility to move anywhere on the board.
Yeah.
You can, go all the way up towards the nose. You can go all the way to the back. Even, sometimes in canoe, we'll kind of like move our seat forward or backward, depending on the conditions. But you've got pretty limited range there. Typically, you can't move your seating position while you're racing in a kayak. And it just adds so much more flexibility and interest, and it's a huge difference in just how you manipulate your craft. I just think it's like, one of the coolest, most skilled, mesmerizing things to watch. So I really enjoy that.
The SUP paddlers that come from more of a surfing background, are they better at turning than the SUP paddlers that maybe come from a canoeing background?
That is a really interesting question. I would have to go deeper into the data to look at that. I had a great conversation with Annabelle Anderson about, what skills it takes. And Annabelle was one of the early legends of SUP. She's an incredible stand-up paddleboarder. SUP Racer named her Paddler of the Decade. She really emphasized the importance of just practicing turns, practicing your board handling skills, and strategic thinking, as well as kind of being prepared for any situation, because when you're going around these buoy turns next to other boards, that's where it gets really tricky. So I would suggest it's probably, I think the board handling skills that you would develop from SUP surfing, which we do have, of course, lots of top paddlers who do both the SUP surfing and SUP racing. I do think those board handling skills would translate well, but as long as these paddlers are putting in the time and practice to play around on their board, and then practice kind of being in those really tight situations going around a turn, that's definitely what will help them out. Yeah.
So on the men's side of these races, who has performed best?
It is tight on the men's side as well. I'm not sure, again, like there's definitely some trading around. Shuri Araki, who goes by Shrimpy, he is still probably like comfortably in the throne as the king of SUP. If I was gonna, name someone, his just like consistency and results, obviously it's not perfect, but it is just really, really up there. I do think it's worth highlighting a couple of names who seem to be having maybe unusually strong seasons so far. The first of those is Donato Frains, who is from the Netherlands, been on the international scene for a while, but I think this might be his best international season yet. Obviously, we're still at the beginning of the season, so it remains to be seen. But on the senior scene, at least, he won the long distance race at the Battle for Hercules. He finished second behind Shrimpy at the Agios Nikolos technical race. He's gotten some other podium finishes, and he has been training with Espe Barreras. Obviously, she's, if you were to think about who's the best type of person to train with, Espe would certainly be up there. And he's been, I think, really pleased with his results this season. He said in a post on Instagram, "I am feeling strong, in sync with my gear, and comfortable in my own skin." The other standout for me has been Fernando Perez Serra, who is from Spain. And he finished second in the technical race behind Shrimpy and ahead of Donato Frains at Sancti Petri, which was one of his best performances on tour. And he won the technical race at the Battle for Hercules. And he finished second behind Christian Andersen, Polar Bear of Denmark, at the Triple S Festival Melilia technical race. So some really strong results in the technical racing in particular for Fernando Perez. So really impressive, and I think he could be one to watch. Those Spaniards, again, the scene in Spain is so strong. You just know that being surrounded with so many of those top level paddlers is going to help sort of bring your game up.
What is upcoming in the SUP world? Because, I mean, after you listed off all of those races, surely there's nothing left in the calendar, or have they still got other races?
You'd think so, right? Even just talking through them makes me really feel for these athletes. And I hope they're finding ways to kind of rest and recuperate between all of this intense racing. But it is not the end. We are still in this wild 6-week stretch. The next couple of big ones upcoming is the World SUP Festival in Costa Blanca from the 16th to 18th of May in Santa Pola, Alicante, and the Barcelona World SUP Festival from the 24th to 25th. Back in Spain again, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the paddlers are, decide to just kind of hang out in Spain for the next few weeks. What better place to hang out than what could maybe be called the SUP capital of the world. I am looking forward to seeing the results of these and see if we start to see some more trends, especially, if anyone on the women's side can dominate more consistently, or if it's going to remain just as tight as we've seen.
Yeah, hopefully no one sort of gets injured, and if everyone's sort of planned their season well, it keeps being tight. Maybe someone has sort of planned their training a little bit better. Maybe someone has got their periodization a little bit better and will start to come out on top.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is the tricky bit of the strategy here, right? Is how do you prioritize your training, your periodization, your travel, nutrition? Someone could end up being several seconds slower on a race just because they had a travel issue and didn't get much sleep the night before.
Yeah, easily. Yeah.
So a lot of what goes into this is happening outside of what we're seeing on the water.
Yeah, I mean, with that much flying, if you're traveling that much, you're going to get ill at some point, aren't you? And that can, if it's a bad one, it can wipe out a couple of weeks. And when the racing's that close, that could affect the results for a good few weeks.
Definitely. I think I did read about some of these racers have already faced illness. I believe it was Csillag from Hungary, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's even more of them. Well, I think that's as much news as we've had time to catch up on today. I know there's still more that we missed that we will get to in the next episode. But we are looking forward to hearing from you all about the news, what other kinds of news you want to hear, and if you like news in podcast and YouTube format. So please let us know. And if you are enjoying it, leave a comment and please subscribe to Paddlecast. Until then, see you on the water.
See you on the water, everyone. I'm wearing the t-shirt you gave me last week.
I got that shirt in a t-shirt swap at the Vendée Va. We've had teams from Tahiti fly out to France just for the race, and it is sized for you and not for me.
And it has forced me to watch some VAR stuff, and it looks amazing in the surf. If I ever got the chance to do it in the surf, that would be amazing.
I'm gonna make that happen.